Welcome to Leadership and People. This is a series that pulls back the curtain on leadership by interviewing CEOs, senior executives, and entrepreneurs who have had large exits. We ask these experts about how they built trusted networks to rapidly grow their companies and what advice they wish they knew if they could do it all again. Today on the show, we've got Jill Krishnamurthy.
But the customer doesn't need to feel that way, right? So you might come in and you're planning your wedding and you're so excited for the layout that you want to have. It doesn't matter that we may have put on an event the day before that has the same layout. To you, it's unique and it's your event and we want to support that.
Tell people about Duo.
Okay. So Duo, some people say we're the Airbnb of event venues. We were born out of the Noah's event venue brand and business that's been around for 10 years. They have 42 buildings across the country and looked around, and this was a year ago, and said, gosh, there's got to be a faster, more scalable way to grow this business. And out of those discussions, Duo was born, where we said, why don't we do what we do in a Noah's, but do that in your backyard and your second home on the coast in Malibu, and offer unique properties to wedding customers and businesses and special events on unique properties for their unique events.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this idea. We were talking before the show started about both coming out private equity backgrounds. After a decade of private equity, tell me about this philosophy, this idea of acquisition of relationships, acquisition of assets, acquisition of knowledge.
Yeah. So when I think about what I've been most interested in and investing sort of time and experience into, has been this concept of acquiring. And as was mentioned, I spent a decade acquiring businesses and looking at businesses and learning from what works and doesn't, and other experiences that leaders have had in the business world. I also joke around that I acquired my husband from Southern India, not through a catalog per se. I met him on a cruise ship, and I've always been so fascinated with different cultures. And even, so I think of in my personal life, I've also been really interested in just like acquiring experience. And whether it's, when the market crashed in 2008 timeframe, I went and I took 3 months off of work, and I said, we're not going to do a deal in these 3 months when we don't know what is up, So I went and backpacked around India for 3 months and really just acquired in that period of time such experience and memories and relationships. I actually came back with a husband almost. And so I just think on my personal side of life and also professional, that I just really enjoy the abundance of experiences that are out there to be had. So,
there's certainly more than one way to acquire, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's hostile takeovers.
Yeah.
Okay, right?
Yep.
So I can tell you're into efficiency,
Yes.
Okay. So think about this like acquiring a husband,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So, a lot of people compare acquiring clients to romance in certain ways, right?
Uh-huh.
When you think about it, it's so easy for us, especially in like such a me-driven society,
Mm-hmm.
and how many followers do you have in social media, or how big is your house or bank account or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all these obvious things of what's in it for me to go
Mm-hmm.
acquire this or to acquire a new friend, right?
Yeah.
That I'm guessing that you have a little more sophisticated approach in it being
I would
where
hope
there's
so.
something in it for them. Tell me about your approach, because it wasn't just you liking him. He obviously liked you back, right?
Yeah, he still does. Well, gosh, what would I say to that? I think that what I treasure most in life, and I love this alignment with Duo, is I treasure experience and I treasure relationships. And, that's what we do at Duo, right? We're all about putting on experiences. We put on over 80 weddings a weekend across our venues. And in my life, I love those relationships and forming and creating those experiences that I always, joke around with my husband and my son about would you rather game. And we always talk about the tangible things of life versus experiences. And my answer is always, would you rather? It's always on the experience side of things. We'll joke around about, would you rather go on a trip to France for the weekend or buy a really nice door for your kitchen? Well, my answer is of course going to be France. And so I think for me, it's just been not the hostile takeovers, as you mentioned, of life, but of saying I can acquire all of this and be better for it and hopefully help others along the way.
Yeah. Well, you and I are both in Corporate Alliance. That's, this show, obviously, Leadership and People is with them. Talk about, you said you originally was like 2006 or something?
That started in private equity?
No, when did you first connect with Corporate Alliance?
I feel like when Jeff started, was it 2004 or 5? I was part of those initial meetings. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So just thinking about that community, I like conferences. I like CEO clubs. I've gone on different folks' trips and stuff.
Uh-huh.
What is it that you like about the way Corporate Alliance does it?
I really like that it's relationship driven and not from a Me Too way that I think every other networking type organization I feel like does it, where it's what can I get from others, just like you were talking about. And I don't feel that sense in Corporate Alliance. It feels much more genuine and much more people and experience focused than what am I getting out of this. So I think I would just say it's the genuine feeling of networking and community building.
So how does that show up at work with your staff of the making sure they don't feel like a number or, having it be the kind of place where they want to be?
Well, on Friday we had Duo and Donuts, which is very on brand for us in terms of the community that we have in our office. There's a lot of humor, a lot of focus on not the, are you in your desk at this time and leaving at this time, but the focus on what are we accomplishing and how do we accomplish that together. So that's the culture that we're really working on building. And it's hard to not have that culture when what we do is put on the best day of someone's life.
Yeah.
Right. Every weekend, as I mentioned, we're putting on hundreds of events that have guests of 200 to 300 people in those having a great time. And that's what this business facilitates and supports. Yeah. So we really work to have a similar culture at our corporate office that is happening in our buildings.
So thinking about, the kind of logistics and things that be involved in that, I'm just going to put it out there that might be a high emotion event for certain folks.
Oh, yeah. We've all seen TLC.
Okay, right? So, rumors about Bridezilla or Mother-in-Lawzilla or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
When you think about, especially being, a deal-driven, acquisition-minded, efficiency individual.
Yeah.
When it comes to the leadership to have a potentially highly emotional catastrophe go as planned, what kind of things do you feel like you've learned that maybe you hadn't expected coming into this, or that maybe aren't obvious to people who don't do it 80 times a weekend?
Yeah. One thing we have here in Utah is there's a lot of events put on, right? And there's the whole religious culture where a lot of people grow up putting events on. Not maybe recognizing that, from a very young age, a lot of people put on these events and it's a part of their life. And that's not the case necessarily across the country. And so one thing that I've learned and, appreciate is that it can be a daunting task and emotional for our customers, not because of Bridezilla and what can be sort of glorified on TV, but because they don't put events on every day. It's an important thing for them and they don't know where to start and what to do. And so for us, our focus is really on being able to say, let's put on your event for you. And this is going to be a fun experience and enjoyable versus stressful. So we have event layouts, and those event layouts where they can bring, the bride can come in and bring in her girlfriends and see example layouts and have wine tasting and enjoy it versus it being a stressful thing.
Yeah. You think about that, especially if your team is doing this so much.
Yeah.
It's just muscle memory, right? They're achieving levels of mastery, getting it done. Any tips for professionals or people who are highly skilled at something that their client might be brand new to, of how to stay humble of like connected to the individual instead of like, hey, listen, just do it my way. Or just even those thoughts of like being alive with them of the like.
In that moment too.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good question, because we can, if we're putting on our hat of I'm in event putting on mode and I'm just going to go through and do these things on my list and get through it, you might lose some of that emotion. And one thing that we could run into if we're not conscious of it is that really 90% of events are the same, but the customer doesn't need to feel that way, right? So you might come in and you're planning your wedding and you're so excited for the layout that you want to have. It doesn't matter that we may have put on an event the day before that has the same layout. To you, it's unique and it's your event, and we want to support that. And so I think whether it's us being so experienced in putting on events, and you in your professional life may be so experienced in, insert what that is recognizing that maybe your customer is coming to you for a reason because they're not as experienced in that, and making each transaction as unique as their event is important. And maybe, just for us, you use the word humble, and I think that's right, where responding with a humble attitude, being as excited as your customer is for what they may be purchasing or putting on. And I think another thing is remembering to respond to your leads in like kind. We sometimes get an email response that's 10 words and probably shouldn't respond with a 500-word essay on why we're the best place, right? Maybe let's respond and start building that relationship in like kind. Sometimes we get emails that are 500 words and have a Pinterest board already built for the event that they want to put on, and great, we're going to respond to that and be as excited as you are to, put on that event.
So this is an interesting subject to me, and specifically thinking about how it applies to other industries or businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a good friend. She her clients are Fortune 500 clients who are spending maybe $1 million a year with her.
Okay.
Okay. Right. And, in the effort to grow a business and have something duplicatable that you can do over and over for many clients, any advice for folks in other industries of walking this balance beam of connecting with them as a human, helping them feel personally taken care of, plus balancing the needs of a business of
efficiency and
duplication helps growth?
Yeah.
Any advice about walking the balance beam in the middle there?
Maybe that you can have a curtain somewhat between your relationship and experience with your customer and your execution of what you deliver. That the customers that we work with, we're going to talk to them, we're going to have great conversations, and we have mapped out our sales experience. What does that look like from the eyes of the customer? And that doesn't mean that they need to know necessarily how we're executing on that, and that certain things are very standard across events. For us, something that's really important for our customers is uniqueness. Well, great, we're going to have that sales dialogue with them and appreciate the uniqueness of their event with them. But so I guess my answer in short is mapping out that sales experience, not just process, but sales experience that you want your customers to have.
What's an example like for you guys?
For us is recognizing the different touch points we have with customers and delivering our brand at each of those touch points.
And will you guys review that in advance? Like, is this
Yes.
on a sheet that's...
Yeah, it's in a process. I mean, we're kind of nerds when it comes to that. We've got the Lucid chart going on and build out our process flow that may not have the DNA of the customer in it, but it shows and highlights for our sales team where in the process, how they layer in that relationship and customer nuance or uniqueness in a similar sales experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the touch points being, sure, our process and our experience might say you email at this point or you text at this point, but we talk about how do you layer in that personality into those touch points. You know, when are you incorporating an emoji in the text message because you are developing a relationship with them, or whatever the example is.
Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, I think this is a good spot to end for part one of the interview. If you were going to invent a sticker to kind of sum that up, like if you're going to wrap that up, what's a phrase or what's something that you think could encapsulate that as kind of a mantra or some sort of a...
Well, here's my mantra that I didn't know I said this all the time. And so my team kind of makes fun of me, but they've been starting to use it. And that is, go with me on this. So I end up having these conversations and I'll say, okay, guys, go with me on this. And then I work on painting a picture of, you know, what I'm envisioning. And I am just going to own up to the fact that, okay, that's my mantra and I'm just going to keep saying it and I'm going to own that phrase, because go with me on this. To me, what that means is have vision, paint that picture, and also be collaborative in what you're doing, which really gets back to the point at the beginning of part one, which is all about experience. Go with me on this is a community and a almost like a peer-based phrase. So yeah, I think go with me on this.
Love it. Okay, let's end there.
Okay.